The bustling studio of The View hummed with anticipation as the audience settled into their seats, the bright lights casting a warm glow over the familiar curved table where Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, Sarah Haynes, and Alyssa Farah Griffin awaited their esteemed guest. It was a crisp autumn morning in New York City, October 9, 2025, and the topic buzzing in Hollywood circles was Meryl Streep's latest cinematic triumph, a poignant drama titled Echoes of Tomorrow, where she portrayed a resilient journalist uncovering corporate corruption in a world teetering on the brink of environmental collapse. The film had already garnered Oscar whispers, with critics lauding Streep's nuanced performance as a beacon of fierce intellect and unyielding empathy. Whoopi, ever the gracious host, kicked off the segment with her signature blend of wit and warmth, introducing Meryl as the queen of reinvention, the woman who can make us laugh, cry, and question everything in the span of a single scene. The audience erupted in applause as Meryl Streep glided onto the stage, her silver hair catching the light like a halo, dressed in an elegant emerald green blouse that mirrored the film's eco-conscious themes. At 76, she moved with the poise of someone half her age, her smile genuine yet carrying the weight of decades in the spotlight. She exchanged air kisses with the panel, lingering a moment longer with Whoopi, whom she had known since their collaborative days on Broadway. As the cheers died down, Whoopi dove right in, asking about the inspiration behind her character, Elaine of Esquez, a role that demanded not just emotional depth but a raw confrontation with real-world issues like climate denialism and media manipulation. Meryl leaned into the microphone, her voice steady and melodic, recounting how the script had landed on her doorstep during a particularly gloomy news cycle, reminding her of the urgency to amplify voices often silenced by power structures. "It's not just acting," she said, her eyes sparkling with conviction. "It's a call to arms, wrapped in the guise of entertainment." Sunny Hostin nodded vigorously, praising the film's timely message, while Sarah Haynes chimed in about how it had sparked family discussions at her dinner table. The conversation flowed seamlessly at first, with Alyssa sharing a personal anecdote about her own brushes with journalistic integrity during her White House days. Joy Behar, seated at the far end with her trademark red lipstick and sharp gaze, listened attentively, her fingers drumming lightly on the table as if composing an internal rhythm to the dialogue. Little did the viewers at home know, this harmonious start was merely the calm before a storm that would etch itself into television history. A clash of titans where intellect met interruption, and grace collided with provocation. Meryl, sipping from a glass of water, elaborated on the rigorous research process, detailing late-night sessions poring over leaked documents and interviews with whistleblowers whose stories mirrored Elena's fictional arc. She spoke of the film's director, a young visionary named Leela Chen, who had insisted on authenticity by filming on location in polluted industrial zones, exposing the cast to the very grit of the narrative. "We smelled the smoke, felt the despair," Meryl recounted, her hands gesturing animatedly, drawing the audience deeper into her world. Whoopi laughed appreciatively at a quip about method acting gone environmentally awry, and the panel leaned in, captivated. But as Meryl transitioned to discussing the broader implications of Hollywood's role in activism, Joy's expression shifted subtly, a raised eyebrow, a slight purse of the lips signaling the undercurrents of dissent that simmered beneath her affable exterior. The camera panned to capture the rapt faces in the crowd, a sea of nodding heads and wide eyes, oblivious to the tension brewing like thunderclouds on the horizon. In that moment, The View felt like more than a talk show. It was a microcosm of cultural discourse, where stars aligned not just to entertain but to provoke thought, challenge norms, and occasionally, ignite fireworks. Meryl's passion was infectious, her words weaving a tapestry of hope amid despair, urging the panel to consider how stories like hers could bridge divides in a polarized nation. Sunny interjected with a question about diversity in casting, to which Meryl responded with thoughtful praise for the ensemble, highlighting up-and-coming talents from underrepresented communities. The exchange built a bridge of mutual respect, laughter punctuating the air as Sarah recounted a blooper from the set that had Meryl in stitches. Yet, as the segment progressed toward its midpoint, Joy's silence grew heavier, her interjections sparse but pointed, like arrows testing the wind before a full volley. The audience, sensing the shift, hushed slightly, their collective breath held in unwitting suspense. Whoopi, ever the conductor, steered back to lighter fare, asking about Meryl's infamous impressions, eliciting a demo that had the studio roaring. But even in levity, the seeds of conflict were sown, waiting for the right spark to blaze. This opening act, rich with camaraderie and insight, set the stage for what would unfold, a verbal joust that would leave jaws on floors and hashtags trending worldwide. As the laughter from Meryl's spot-on impersonation of a befuddled politician faded into appreciative chuckles, the panel circled back to the heart of Echoes of Tomorrow, delving into its unflinching critique of political apathy toward climate crises. Meryl, her posture impeccable, elaborated on a pivotal scene where Elena confronts a senator in a rain-soaked press conference, symbolizing the tears of a drowning planet. "It's not preachy," she clarified, her tone measured yet fervent. "It's a mirror held up to our complacency, forcing us to see the reflections of our inaction." Alyssa Fair Griffin, drawing from her political background, praised the nuance, noting how it avoided partisan traps while exposing systemic failures on all sides. Sarah Haynes added a heartfelt touch, sharing how the film's emotional core resonated with her as a mother worried about the legacy left for her children. Sunny Hostin, with her legal eagle eye, probed deeper into the journalistic ethics portrayed, commending Meryl's ability to humanize the grind of truth-seeking in an era of fake news. The audience murmured in agreement, a few hands clapping spontaneously as Meryl nodded graciously, crediting the writers for their razor-sharp dialogue. Whoopi, sensing the momentum, turned to Joy with an inviting smile. "Joy, you've been awfully quiet over there. What's your take on Hollywood stepping into these big conversations?" Joy Behar, who had built a career on unfiltered candor, leaned forward, her eyes locking on to Meryl's with an intensity that prickled the air. "Oh, honey," she began, her voice laced with that signature New York bite, "I love the movie, don't get me wrong, bravo on the tears. Meryl, you always deliver, but let's be real, isn't this just another case of celebrities playing savior from their gated mansions? I mean, flying in on private jets to tell us plebeians to recycle while your carbon footprint could melt the ice caps twice over." The studio fell into a stunned hush, the audience exchanging wide-eyed glances as the words hung like smoke. Meryl's expression remained composed, a faint smile playing at her lips, but her eyes sharpened, betraying a flicker of steel beneath the velvet. "Joy," she replied evenly, "that's a fair critique, and one I've grappled with myself. But activism isn't about perfection, it's about progress. The film isn't lecturing from on high, it's inviting everyone, stars included, to do better." Joy waved a hand dismissively, her rings catching the light like tiny daggers. "Progress? Please. I've been in this game longer than most, and I've seen too many A-listers virtue signal for awards season. Remember that gala where half the room arrived by limo to toast the rainforest? Hypocrisy much?" The panel shifted uncomfortably. Whoopi attempted a light pivot, but Sunny jumped in defensively, citing examples of genuine celebrity-led initiatives. Yet Joy pressed on, her voice rising an octave, targeting Meryl directly. "No offense, Meryl, but at your level, it's easy to preach. What's the last real sacrifice you made for this cause?" The question landed like a gauntlet, the audience gasping audibly as cameras zoomed in on Meryl's face, capturing the subtle clench of her jaw. In that electric pause, the room crackled with unspoken hysteria as Joy's decades of feminist firebrand commentary clashing against Meryl's quiet, profound gravitas. Meryl set her water glass down deliberately, the clink echoing like a gavel. "Sacrifice, Joy? I've poured my life into roles that challenge the status quo, from Silkwood exposing nuclear dangers to the Post defending the free press. But perhaps your right, words alone aren't enough. That's why I'm donating my entire salary from this film to grassroots environmental groups in unnamed, unpublicized, because true change doesn't need a red carpet." The revelation drew ooze from the crowd, but Joy scoffed, undeterred. "Donations? That's just tax write-offs dressed in altruism. Come on. We're all adults here. Hollywood's greenwashing is as old as the hills." The exchange escalated, words flying like sparks from flint, with Meryl countering each barb with facts and poise, while Joy wielded sarcasm like a shield. Sarah tried mediating, her voice soft. "Ladies, This is passionate discourse at its best, but the heat was palpable, the audience riveted, phones already buzzing with live tweets. This middle passage marked the ignition, where polite probing ignited into personal provocation, laying bare the fractures in celebrity culture's moral armor. Meryl's defenses were articulate fortresses, built on experience and empathy, while Joy's assaults were guerrilla strikes, quick and cutting, rooted in populist skepticism. As the clock ticked toward commercial break, the tension coiled tighter, promising an eruption that would redefine the show's legacy of bold banter. The studio lights seemed to dim under the weight of the burgeoning confrontation, as if the very atmosphere conspired to spotlight the duel unfolding at the table. Joy Behar, fueled by her unshakable belief in calling out what she saw as elite detachment, leaned in closer, her finger jabbing the air for emphasis. "Look, Meryl, you're a genius. We all know that Oscars don't lie, but genius doesn't give you a pass on accountability. This movie, it's gorgeous, gut-wrenching, sure, but it's also a $150 million machine designed to make audiences feel good about doing nothing. You cry on screen, we cry in our seats, and tomorrow we drive our SUVs to work like nothing happened." Her words sliced through the room, eliciting a mix of murmurs and uneasy laughter from the audience, some nodding in reluctant agreement, others shifting in solidarity with Meryl. Whoopi Goldberg, the steady hand at the helm, interjected with a raised palm. "Joy, ease up, let's keep it constructive." But Joy, ever the contrarian, plowed ahead, her eyes never leaving Meryl's. "Constructive? That's my middle name, Whoop. I'm just saying, if you're gonna use your platform to shame politicians and CEOs, maybe start with the mirror." Meryl, who had navigated red carpets and congressional hearings with equal finesse, absorbed the hit without flinching, her response unfolding like a masterclass in restraint. "Joy, I appreciate your fire. It's what makes this show must-watch TV. But shaming, that's not the goal. Echoes is about connection, not condemnation. It's about a woman like Elena, or like you, or like any viewer out there, realizing their voice matters, no matter the size of their garage." The audience applauded tentatively, sensing the pivot to empowerment, but Joy wasn't buying it. "Voice? Your voice echoes because you've got megaphones everywhere. Mine? I yell into the wind on daytime TV, and half the time, it's drowned out by ads for diet pills. So forgive me if I question the choir preaching to itself." Sunny Hostin, her lawyer's instinct kicking in, attempted to reframe, "But isn't that the point? Allies amplifying each other." Alyssa nodded, adding a conservative slant. "Joy's right about hypocrisy, but Meryl's work has sparked real policy talks. I've seen the memos." Sarah Haynes, the eternal optimist, shared a story of a viewer who started a community garden after watching a Streep film, hoping to humanize the debate. Yet the undercurrent of rivalry persisted, Joy's barbs growing sharper, Meryl's retorts more incisive. "Let's talk specifics," Joy challenged. "That scene where Elena calls out the oil barona brilliant, but off-screen, how many of your co-stars jetted to the premiere on fossil fuels? Be honest." Meryl's laugh was light but laced with edge. "Honesty is my stock in trade, Joy. Yes, we flew commercial for press, and the production offset every mile with reforestation projects. But let's flip it. What's your carbon footprint from all those cross-country comedy tours?" "No judgment, just conversation," the crowd gasped, a ripple of excitement spreading as Meryl turned the mirror back, her delivery so velvet-gloved that the sting landed with exquisite precision. Joy's cheeks flushed, but she fired back, "Touch a tilde copyright, but I'm not the one getting $20 million a picture to play hero. I'm just a loudmouth from Brooklyn keeping it real." The banter teetered on the edge of hilarity and hostility, the panelists exchanging glances like tightrope walkers spotting a wobble. Whoopi steered toward safer waters, asking about Meryl's upcoming projects, but the damage was done. The audience was hooked, the viral clip already forming in collective minds. This phase of the clash revealed layers, Joy's populism clashing with Meryl's progressivism, each woman embodying archetypes of American discrecy, the scrappy underdog versus the enlightened elder. Meryl's poise began to weave subtle humiliations, not through volume but through veracity, exposing the inconsistencies in Joy's crusade with gentle, irrefutable logic. As commercials loomed, the tension simmered, promising a post-break powder keg. Viewers at home, glued to screens from coffee mugs in hand, felt their pulse quicken. This not just entertainment but a raw slice of cultural reckoning. Emerging from the brief commercial interlude, the energy in the studio had transformed into a charged hum, like the moments before a thunderstorm breaks. The audience, buzzing with whispers and furtive phone checks, settled back as the camera swept over their eager faces. Whoopi Goldberg, with her inimitable timing, resumed with a joke about needing oxygen masks for this hot air, eliciting relieved laughter that briefly diffused the bomb. Meryl Streep, unruffled, flashed a conspiratorial grin, her resilience a quiet testament to a career forged in adversity. But Joy Behar, undaunted, seized the reins immediately, her voice booming with renewed vigor. "All right, Meryl, cards on the table. I've admired your work since Kramer vs. Kramer, but this eco-warrior phase, it feels like a late career pivot for relevance. Admit it, is Echo's just Streep's way of staying in the awards chatter while the world burns?" The audacity of the question hung heavy, the panel freezing in collective shock, Sunny's mouth agape, Sarah's hand fluttering to her chest. Meryl paused, her gaze steady, then unleashed a response that would become legendary sound bites. "Relevance, Joy? I've been relevant by being playing women who fight, who falter, who rise. If relevance means tackling the apocalypse we created, then guilty as charged. But let's not kid ourselves. Your show's thrived on controversy for 30 years. Is this clash scripted for ratings, or are you genuinely this allergic to nuance?" The studio erupted, gasps morphing into cheers as Meryl's words landed, a perfect blend of acclaim and accusation. Joy recoiled visibly, her retort stumbling. "Allergic? I'm allergic to BS. You waltz in here with your Meryl magic, and suddenly everyone's supposed to bow to your wisdom? Newsflash, I've interviewed presidents, grilled senators, so you're not the only one with gravitas." Alyssa Fair-Griffin, sensing escalation, tried bridging. "Both bring fire, that's why we love you." But Meryl, now fully engaged, dismantled Joy's defense with surgical precision. "Gravitas isn't a competition, Joy. It's earned through action, not airtime. You've built a legacy of bold takes, and I respect that, but dismissing systemic change as celebrity fluff undermines the very viewers who look to us for hope. Those women in the heartland, juggling jobs and kids, watching this show for a spark, and they deserve better than cynicism served hot." The audience rose in a wave of applause, phones aloft capturing the moment, as Joy's face cycled through indignation to something akin to begrudging respect. Sunny Hosting piled on supportively. "Meryl's right, a hope isn't hypocrisy, it's the antidote." Sarah shared a tearful anecdote about a fan letter inspired by The View's own advocacy segments, while Whoopi nodded sagely. Joy, cornered but in boat, attempted a recovery. "Fine, point taken, but don't think a pretty speech erases the private jet parade." Meryl's smile turned triumphant, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper that boomed through the mix. "Joy, darling, if I flew commercial and you flew coach, we'd both still be preaching to the same choir. The real humiliation is pretending otherwise." Laughter exploded, the crowd roaring as Joy's jaw dropped, her usual quick wit momentarily silenced. In this crescendo of confrontation, Meryl's humiliation wasn't cruel but crystalline, exposing Joy's bluster as borrowed thunder, all while elevating the discourse. The panel dissolved into crosstalk, voices overlapping in a symphony of support and sparring, the camera capturing every micro-expression, Joy's flushed cheeks, Meryl's serene command. Viewers flooded social media. #Meryl vs. Joy trending instantaneously, memes sprouting like digital weeds. This segment crystallized the clash's core, a battle for authenticity in an inauthentic age, where one woman's poise outshone another's provocation, leaving the latter exposed in the glare of unyielding truth. As the break neared again, the air thrummed with unresolved energy, the audience on the edge of their seats, craving the finale. With the second commercial break barely cooling the studio's fevered pitch, the return felt like re-entering a pressure cooker, the audience's applause thundering as if urging the combatants onward. Whoopi Goldberg, wiping a bead of sweat with practiced nonchalance, quipped, Welcome back to the View, where we solve world problems and bruise egos in equal measure. The levity bought precious seconds, but Joy Behar, her resolve hardened like steel in a forge, wasted no time reclaiming the offensive. Meryl, you talk a big game about truth and sacrifice, but let's get personal. That donation you mentioned, peanuts for you. Meanwhile, folks like me scrape by on network salaries, fighting the good fight without the safety net of residuals. So tell me, does it sting when someone like me calls out the ivory tower? Her delivery was raw, laced with the vulnerability that had endeared her to millions, but it carried an underbelly of resentment that sharpened its edge. The panel tensed. Sarah Haynes whispered a soft oath, while Sunny shot Joy a cautionary glance. Meryl Streep, the actress who had embodied queens and commoners alike, met the gaze without blinking, her response a tapestry of empathy woven with unsparing insight. Joy, it doesn't sting, it saddens me, because you're not someone like me. You're a pioneer who paved the way for every woman at this table, including me. Your book deals, your stand-up they've funded causes long before I had my first Oscar. But weaponizing your struggle against progress, that's not fighting the good fight, that's friendly fire. The words resonated like a bell toll, the audience erupting in a standing ovation that drowned out Joy's sputtering comeback. Alyssa Fair-Griffin, bridging her worlds, added, Meryl's spotty nod of vision weakens us all. Whoopi nodded emphatically, steering with, ladies, this is gold, but let's channel it productively. Yet Joy, her pride pricked, doubled down. Friendly fire? Try getting cancelled for a joke while you get lauded for lectures. Equity, my dear, isn't just a buzzword, it's the rent we pay for existing in this club. Meryl's eyes softened, but her voice held firm. Equity is exactly why I speak up for the Joys, the Sunnas, the Sarahs who came before and will come after. But equity demands we lift together, not lob grenades. Imagine if we teamed up, your street smart savvy with my ivory tower reach, we'd move mountains, not just mouths. The proposal hung poetic, drawing whoops from the crowd, as Joy paused, her retort faltering into a half laugh, half sigh. Team up, with you? I'd outtalk you in 5 minutes. Meryl's grin was wickedly charming. Darling, you'd outtalk God, but I'd outtalk the devil and win the debate. Laughter cascaded, the humiliation crystallizing in the self-deprecating zinger. Joy's bluster deflated not by malice but by Meryl's masterful mirror of her own strengths. Sarah seized the moment for unity, recounting a joint charity event where Joy and Meryl had crushed it together years prior. Sunny layered in stats on women's alliances in media, while Alyssa pondered aloud the political parallels. The exchange evolved, barbs softening into banter. Yet the undercurrent of Meryl's dominance pulsated her every word a velvet hammer, reshaping Joy's aggression into admiration. Phones buzzed relentlessly, live streams exploding with praise for Meryl's grace under fire, clips dissected in real time. This pivotal paragraph chronicled the turning tide, where confrontation yielded to confluence, Joy's defenses crumbling under the weight of Meryl's unwavering authenticity. The audience, now fully invested, sensed the climax approaching, their cheers a chorus of catharsis. In this arena of words, Meryl didn't just defend, she disarmed, turning potential enmity into enduring legend, the humiliation a gentle unraveling of pretense in favor of profound connection. Thanks for watching and subscribe my YouTube channel.